Hi there. In this video, I'm gonna go over the editing techniques that I use to take my guitar sound from this to this. We're gonna start by looking at this section from my Drop G demo I released a couple weeks ago using my Mesa Boogie DC-5 captures. Let's listen to that section again. I'm going to highlight it yellow so it's easier to see what we're working with. For this section, I'm going for a tight modern sound. So I have to make sure that I clean up in between all the palm mutes and in between this section over here to make sure that all the pauses are tight. I use a hard gate when I'm tracking, but I turn it off at this stage to make sure I have more control. The other component to having that modern sound is to be able to align all these palm mutes to the grid along with the bass and the drums. If I don't do this, the section comes across as sloppy. As you can hear, it started okay, but then somewhere in the middle, I started getting ahead of the beat. And you can visually see it, like right here. I started getting ahead. This is the bass right here. This is the drum hits. Ideally, in this section, you want all those to line up. And you can see here, I'm early, and then this last section is really bad. You can see I'm early on all of them. And this one, I go really off, way too early, to where it's really sloppy. Check this out. They don't line up at all. Yes, I can go back and re-record, which I do a lot. But sometimes it's just easier to do a quick edit, especially in this section where there's a lot of pauses. It's just easier to move the note. Let's work on this last section first, since it's the one that is really bad. Let's do them manually, and then I'll show you a way to doing it almost automatic, as long as you're pretty close to the grid. I'm going to tap to transient using the tab key in Studio One. Takes me to the transient of the note. I'm gonna do the next one, the next one. So I'll do this and then what this does is separate all the hits into different clips. And to me, that's usually good enough. So now we have it split. Let's do it on the other guitar as well. So tap to transient, that one. Tap to transient, tap to transient, tap to transient. There we go. So now we cut all the palm mutes into different clips. And now we're just gonna move them to the grid. Like this. Like that. This one goes there. I'm basically trying to line it up with the bass hits right here. Like that. This one goes there. This one here. This one's way off. So now all the palm mutes are lining up with the bass on the left guitar. Gonna do the right guitar. Oops. There we go. And then you kind of clean these up by dragging them up. Make sure you take care of any overlaps. Like that. So now this section, all of the palm mutes are lined up to the grid, which in turn would be lined up to the drums. And now we just need to clean up the space in between. And then, so what I do here is just basically delete these. This. There we go. So now we have all the palm mutes line up with each other. The left guitar and the right guitar should be hitting pretty close to each other. At the same time, I don't like to get surgically with this, but just close enough. A lot of the music that I grew up listening is not tight like this, so I still try to leave a little element of error in there. So I don't spend too much time, just get it close enough. The next step is to create fades for these sections. That way you don't hear clicks and pops as they come in and out. So the best way is just to highlight them, and then on PreSonus Studio One, you just click X on your keyboard, or Shift X, and then it creates the auto fades for you. So now let's see where we're at. So that's a lot tighter than what it was before. So the guitars are tight with each other, and now let's see with the rest of the mix. That's night and day. Now let's go back a little bit to the first section of the palm mutes. Let's do this middle one. So this middle one, this one over here. It's not as bad as the one we just did. It's a little closer to the grid. So it's a good candidate to do the automatic process that I'm about to show you. First, let's isolate the section. Here. Let's change the color of this section so it's easy to see. Then the first step is to automatically detect the transients. And you do that by right-clicking on the clip. You go to Audio, Detect Transients. You can also set it up as a shortcut. So what that does, it's the same thing that we did with Tap to Transient, but without doing the cut. So it identifies all the transients. Then I do audio, it's split at band markers. And what that actually does is make the cut for you at the location of those transients. Then with everything highlighted, I like to double click to open the editor. I click on the quantized function here. I leave everything on default, 16th grid, straight. Sometimes you have to play with a triplet if you haven't a triplet grid or a triplet song. I leave everything default, and then the option right here at the end, you have to change it to quantize on track. And that will actually move the clips like we did before manually. If you do this first one, it will actually stretch the clip, but it messes with the audio. I don't like to do it. So I like to actually move it on the track. And then when you click apply, it will actually line it up to the grid for you. Same way we did before, but it will do it manually. It will do it automatically for you. Then we need to take care of all the overlaps and gaps that were created by moving the clips around. And to do that automatically, you just highlight everything, go to event, and then remove gaps. And then it lines everything up. And then I like to do X to create the auto fades. This step is really unnecessary for this section because we're going to be removing the silence. To remove the silence, we're going to select the whole section. Go to the strip silence function in Studio One and apply, and it will remove all the silence. And then you just have to make sure that the length of the clips are what you want it to be. The more you do this, you get faster at it and kind of know what you're looking for and what you have to clean up. I use a combination of both, manual and automatic. And because we did those unnecessary crossfades, I had to do some extra cleanup. But the more you do this, the faster you get at it and know what to look for. And so this one's looking pretty good now. So yeah, even though we use the automatic process, you still have to go back and clean up a couple things, but it does save time. So that's good for me. And then I just highlighted X or Shift X to create the fades. To do this even faster, you can create a macro to do all the steps that we just did with a click of a button. So to do that, we just go to Studio One, macro organizer. We do a new macro, call it guitar edit, for example. And we're just gonna do the steps in order. Detect transient first. Then after we detect it, we split it at the bend markers. After we split it, we do a quantize on the track. And then after we do that, we remove the gaps. And after we remove the gaps, we do auto fades. And then we're going to strip silence. And add that. So this is the steps in order. Detect transients, split up bent markers, quantize on track, remove gaps, create auto fades, and then the strip silence. Then we can assign it a shortcut. And for this one, we just think Control J is open. Yes. So when I click Control J, it will do all the steps that we just did automatically. So let's do it on this right guitar here. We're gonna edit this one to match that one. So Control J. There we go. And then you just fix your lengths. And like we did before, we just fix a couple. And boom. Edit the guitars pretty fast. There we go. Much better. I will spend more time cleaning these up a little more, make sure they're all end at the same time. And then I'll listen in solo. You know, as much as you do this visually and try to line it to the grid, you also want to check it with your ears at the end and make sure it sounds right. Sometimes it looks right, but it doesn't sound right. You just have to adjust it. The other thing is, my preference is not to have it too tight to where it almost sounds mono. So I like to still keep a little difference between the left and right side. Like for example, this is a little off. So you can tell like this one, they're not hitting exactly at the same time, but it's close enough. And in this section, to me, it's more important that they stop at the same time and nothing's ringing in the silence in between. So just use your ears, edit to the part, and use the tools in your DAW to help you get there faster. One thing to note is that this macro that we just created, it automatically removes silence. But not all riffs require silence to be removed. So just keep that in mind. I actually prefer not to have it here. And then I'd like to strip the silence manually. And then also for this riff, this section, we needed to create auto fades as opposed to crossfades because I guess there's one crossfade right here. So you got it, your auto fades will create the fades coming in and out. And then crossfades will create these crossfades between two different parts. So what you want to, just keep that in mind. For example, let's go to the main riff of this demo. So that's over here. So in this riff, I don't want to remove any silence. And yes, I'm gonna need a crossfade, an auto fade in the beginning and the end. But when it makes all the cuts in the between, I'm going to need crossfades, not auto fades. So just keep that in mind when you make your macros, that you know what you're doing here. You know what you're trying to accomplish. So you can actually tell it to create auto fades and crossfades together. So it takes care of both. There we go. And then remove the silence. So let's hear this riff. right, so let's apply the macro, Control J. Done. Let's do it on the other one. Done. So ideally these guitars are edited now. You can zoom in, you can see it created all the crossfades. And then, you know, I do this and then I check it, make sure it sounds good. Sounds good to me. Then with the band. Pretty cool, huh? After I have all my edits like this, I don't like to leave a bunch of crossfades in my project, so I just highlight everything and do a bounce. Let's see, where is it? Bounce selection. Well, it's Control B on my keyboard. And then puts it all in one clip. And now I have one clip with my... Well, that's it. This is how I edit my guitars for my demos. I try to do a mixture of manual and automatic to save time. And you know, you can do all the editing in the world, but it still doesn't beat a good performance. So I try to do a good performance, but sometimes I'm lazy. I don't want to learn the part too well as I'm writing. So I do this after the fact a lot. But I actually don't learn my songs until after I'm finished with them. So I can't even play them as I'm writing them. I really hope this was helpful to you guys, and you know, if this was useful and you want to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe below and let me know what kind of tutorials you'd like to see. Hope you guys have a good one.